just wanted to make a quick video to explain everything you need to run a fast 102 with the billet fuel rails on a C5Z without cutting any clearance into your cowl or into your firewall or anything like that. So really, before I go any further, what seems like the better option would have been to order their kit that lets you run an LS2 fuel rail on this intake. So they do sell that at Fast. It's actually cheaper overall. I just don't know where the power limit is, and really, for most people, it's probably more than adequate. But anyway, I bought the billet rail with the Nick Williams 102 throttle body. So what you have to do for the throttle body, we can just kind of start there. You do need to get an adapter harness or make an adapter harness that will allow you to run a Gen 4, I guess, style. This is like LS2, LS3 style throttle body connector. It combines the IAC and the TPS into one connector rather than having two, one on each side. You'll also need to figure out a solution for your PCV. I use the stock LS6 PCV and it seems like it's working okay. I'm making a new one because this one's cracked on the ends, and I'm going to get an inline PCV, so you got to figure that out. My other advice is buy the billet rails. If you buy the billet rails, get them from Fast. Don't buy the fuel line adapter kit. So what I ended up doing is I bought the fuel line adapter kit and I ended up using one fitting from it. So when you get that kit, it comes with two -10 fittings. I guess I used 3 fittings. Two -10 fittings for the front, a 18-inch or something, 10-inch maybe, -10 fuel crossover, and then a -6 feed line, and then a plug for the back or a plug with a gauge. It's one or the other. Now, the reason I say don't buy that is because I didn't really use much of it and it was really expensive. You could get the same fittings for cheaper elsewhere. I didn't use their crossover. Their crossover was way too long and it made like a big rainbow, and it would have rubbed and it would have caused all kinds of problems. So I ended up remaking a crossover that was closer to the right fit. Now the other problem is their crossover can't work in the back. It will hit the cowl so hard because of how long the 90s are that come with the kit that are attached to the crossover. So when I test fit it with that, we ended up raising the engine with the crossover in the back, and we had the feed in the front. We were going to run a fuel line from the factory fuel line to there, feed it, fuel pressure gauge on that side. It would have been cool on an F body, but not on a C5, from what I understand at least. I haven't put it on an F body, so I can't say for sure, but that is what I'm being told. So anyway, it didn't fit. It hit so hard that it actually popped the injector. The fuel rails bolted down and it popped it up off the first fuel injector. And for me to get the rail off, I had to unbolt the fuel rail. It came up about this high. It was on none of the injectors except the back one, and it was bending it, which potentially could have cracked the housing. And I had to pull the whole intake off with the fuel rail to get it out. And when I did that, there was so much scoring on the cowl, you could see exactly where it came up and pushed. So then, yeah, that doesn't really work. Basically what I have now is I have the feed on the passenger side, and I'll go get a flashlight real quick. I have basically the plug that came with the fuel rail kit that I put a flush mount AN plug in the back of it, and then I shaved it down to fit with the cowl. So there's basically half a fitting there, but it doesn't leak, so we're good. Then, as I was saying, on the feed side, I have a 90, or I guess it's a 120, facing down. The braided line runs down behind the intake over here to, this is where the factory fuel line came out. So normally there's a braided line coming off this quick connect to another quick connect that goes to your fuel rail, your factory fuel rail. That's kind of another thing to mention. Fast does sell a quick connect fitting for this application. It's the wrong one for a C5. So the C5 has a female end off the end of the quick connect, and they sell a female -6 AN fitting, basically quick connect AN adapter, I guess you could call it. Now, if you take the braided line off, like I did, you do have a male here, and you could run the their quick connect here, and it wouldn't be an issue. Except this is a coated quick connect, and the tolerances on their fitting were way too tight. When I finally got it on there, it felt like it was going to pull the plastic out and it was going to leak. So I ended up getting this Earl's fitting instead, and I ran a 180 to run the fuel back behind the intake, you know, back onto that side of the fuel rail. And basically that's what I ended up having to do to make it work. I could have cut a hole in the cowl and it would have worked. I could have just kind of notched the cowl. That probably would have worked. But again, I didn't want to cut it. You know, if it came down to it, I would have done it. But it seemed like there was better options than cutting the cowl. But that's basically what you have to do to get the billet fuel rail set up to work. So then I forgot one thing with the throttle body. You do have to grind the water pump. And in some cases, you have to grind the throttle body, from what I understand. I'm trying to see if I can get a visual on it. It doesn't look like I can. So I'll show you on the water pump I have out of the car. Basically, you have to grind this mounting bolt for the cover from the back of the fuel rail. You have to grind that down basically until the threads are showing, which isn't good. So you take it down just before that, and then you grind the rest on the throttle body if you need to. I have about 2 blonde ones between my my throttle body and my water pump. You can see, maybe, probably not, some of the grinding I did down there. Doesn't take long if you have a good grinder. I use like a 3M roll lock. Took probably 5 minutes. Not really a big deal. So then the last thing I had to do was convert to well, I didn't convert. I ran a Gen 3 map sensor in the place where normally the Gen 4 would mount. I bought this bracket on eBay. I'm not crazy about it. It doesn't really work for this application, but it looks nice. So we're gonna roll with it. I guess I could spin it around. I might spin that around, but I can't because of my crossover. So I guess that's gonna stay like that. But anyway, because of how tight it is in the back, even without my fuel feed being on the passenger side, the map sensor hit the cowl also, and it's not that long. So if you can see back there, kind of right behind the fuel line is a bolt hole for the upper shell for the intake. Behind that, where it's even tighter, is where the map sensor would normally go. The map sensor hit the firewall very hard. It seemed like it was going to break. It seemed like it was going to be a giant vacuum leak. So I relocated it to the front. Now, the relocation isn't hard. People do sell extension harnesses, but I made one myself. I bought a pigtail, and I extended it. I repinned, soldered, good to go. Looks relatively factory. You know, you'd know if my injector adapters weren't so tall, you would never even know anything changed. But that's basically everything I had to do to run the Fast 102 with the billet fuel rails on a C5 without any cutting. And basically the simplest way to put it is think in terms of an LS2 or an LS3 car. Don't think in terms of LS1, LS6. Everything on this intake, besides the cathedral port, is LS2 or 3 based. So that's kind of the easiest way to think about it. And just buy the freaking factory fuel rail adapter kit. Thanks for watching.